So therefore, we can simply assume that anytime you see something like this, a finally block, your assumption becomes, all right, no matter what happens in this particular method, this will always execute. But I have to warn you about the following. If I just copy and paste this the second time, so if I've done something like that twice, and so I now have two try and catch statements, and they all include the finally block. Let's see. So this is our program always prints this. Let's change this message to our program prints this first, right? And our program prints this second. You should understand one thing, is that this finally block, which is located somewhere near the bottom of this method main, will not execute unless we actually started to use this try, catch, and finally structure. To demonstrate, we already know that this really always going to run because we're going to say try, this may fail, you know, we go over here, or the other way around, input was accepted, but this will always work. Yes, question? Yes, I will cover that next. Thanks. Yeah, you can have multiple catch blocks. And then, this is what I'm going to say. If the input that I just got from the user 1 equals 55, whatever that means, return. How about that? So, if I type 55 as my input, in this case, I'm expecting in my finally block that since 1 is going to be equal 55, I will return. In all other cases, I will not return and continue execution inside my main method. Okay, let's try this situation. So unfortunately, I don't print anything, so don't print any prompts. Maybe I should. How about this? How about I print a prompt which says enter a number. So to make it look more intuitive, since the program grows and becomes enter another number, so I have some user-friendly interface. Try this again, enter a number. So this is a better story. So the number is 1, 2, 3. It says the input was accepted. Our program prints this first. So the finally block worked, but we never returned because I didn't type 55. So we just continue on to this next portion of our program. And this time I will type some garbage. And this time it says our program prints the second, so that the second finally block executed. The second time, so this was expected and pretty much nothing new we learned from this story. But the second time, I say enter a number, and I type 55. Okay, so the input was accepted. Then, of course, I got our program prints this first from this line, and apparently we return from the main method. So, in many cases, you will hear this information that anytime you have a finally block inside a method, it will always execute. Well, that's not 100% true, because it will execute each finally block still corresponds to its try block. So if I need to deallocate some resources and close some files and do some extra work, I really, in the situation where there are multiple try and catch blocks in the method, I need to choose carefully where I do this work, right? Because it doesn't mean that if I'm returning here, that this finally block still will run. Because, you may have heard someone saying, oh, the finally block always executes inside the method no matter what. That's not completely true. It will execute only if the corresponding try block has started and started to do something. Obviously, if I did this and never return, then of course my finally block catches the thread of execution, it executes, and then as soon as I enter my second try block, then I know for sure that this finally block will run. Just something to be aware of. Okay? So, let's go back to the presentation and just really kind of formally. Questions, yes, please.
Yeah. So how would you, if you wanted to close files there, and you wanted to do it after you did the two catches, where would you put the finally block?
The answer is I don't know. It's up to you, but you better do it right. I mean, perhaps the question is, so all right, let's pretend that we do open a file, or maybe two files. So the possibilities could be, in this first try, you might say, open file 1, right? And we do open file 1. Okay, sure. Then someplace over here we can say open another file. I'm not coding it. I'm just saying that maybe we do this. Then clearly this is where you would want to close your files if you're really returning, perhaps right here. You would say close files, right? But my point is that it would be wrong to close files only here. To close files only over here, simply because if you didn't close your files on before this return statement, then you're not doing the right thing.
So if you actually wanted to drop down with open files to the second try, you might have to code the closed files all over again.
Twice, maybe, yeah. I don't like this idea. That may be the possibility. And that's.
Is there a better way of doing it?
Yes, perhaps why have two try and catch blocks? Maybe you can use just one. And for that, let's demonstrate this. Perhaps what you can do is that you can have multiple catch blocks which respond to different exceptions. For example, we can just have an exception, just like this exception, which perhaps this would be couldn't open a file, and the second place would say something else failed. Again, I'm not giving you specific examples of the code, just the possibility of having multiple exceptions generated by this code right here, and the chance to catch different kinds of exceptions will provide you an opportunity to restructure your code in such a way that you actually don't use the second try catch finally block, but try to program it within one single structure, and that may be the solution. I am not going to show you too many of examples here, simply because we have the entire second lecture later on, which will cover this in great detail, going through some practical scenarios. And of course, we're also going to work with files. And when we work with files, again, all of these topics will be discussed, and the possibilities will be discussed. More questions?
One quick question. Is there, using the finally, instead of just putting that closing code right after the catch block, is there a benefit to that?
Yes, the alternative could be, let me actually save this, and we'll start with the question.